Undercover owner saw Waitress with a broken hand in his diner. What he discovered left him stunned. The rain hammered against the windows of Murphy's diner like tiny fists demanding to be let in. It was one of those November mornings where the sky forgot what color it was supposed to be, turning everything gray and heavy. Inside the diner, the warmth from the kitchen fought against the cold that seeped through the old door every time someone pushed through. The smell of fresh biscuits mixed with the bitter scent of coffee that had been sitting too long on the burner. But nobody complained about the coffee at Murphy's. They came for something else entirely. They came to watch the show that played out every single morning, a show nobody wanted to see but nobody could look away from. Elena Martinez moved through the narrow spaces between tables like water finding its way through rocks. Her black hair was pulled back so tight it made her temples ache, but loose hair meant complaints from the kitchen, and complaints meant trouble she couldn't afford. Her left hand was wrapped in dirty white bandages that went all the way up past her wrist, disappearing under the sleeve of her uniform. The bandages had been white 3 weeks ago when she first wrapped them. Now they were the color of old newspaper, stained with coffee and grease and time. She carried 4 plates balanced on her right arm, her good arm, while her left hand hung at her side like something that didn't quite belong to her anymore. Every step she took was calculated, measured, because dropping even one plate would mean disaster. Not just broken dishes, but broken dreams, broken hopes, broken everything. The morning crowd was thick today. Construction workers sat at the counter, their hard hats placed beside their coffee cups like guards watching over their meals. Office workers in pressed shirts grabbed quick breakfasts before heading to their air-conditioned buildings. And in the corner booth, the one with the cracked red leather that nobody ever wanted to sit in, there was Michael Chen. Most people thought Michael was homeless or maybe just down on his luck. He wore the same faded green army jacket every day, the kind with patches that told stories of places most folks had only seen on maps. His beard was gray and wild, like he'd forgotten what razors were for. He ordered the same thing every morning without fail. Black coffee, wheat toast, no butter. He'd sit there for hours, reading a newspaper that was always folded to the crossword puzzle, though nobody ever saw him write anything in the squares. What nobody knew was that Michael Chen owned this diner. He owned the building it sat in. He owned the parking lot outside where puddles formed every time it rained because he'd never gotten around to fixing the drainage. He'd bought the place 15 years ago with money he'd saved from selling his tech company, a company nobody here would recognize because Michael had made sure his name stayed out of the papers. He liked being invisible. He liked watching how people acted when they thought nobody important was looking. And for the past 3 weeks, he'd been watching Elena Martinez very carefully. The kitchen door swung open with a bang that made everyone jump. Victor Krause stepped out, his face already red even though it was barely 7 in the morning. Victor was the kind of manager who thought volume was the same as authority. The louder he yelled, the more in charge he felt. He was built like a refrigerator, square and solid, with hands that looked like they could crush cans without trying. His eyes found Elena immediately, the way a hawk finds a mouse in a field. Martinez. His voice cut through the morning chatter like a chainsaw through wood. Table 6 has been waiting 15 minutes for their order. What are you doing, taking a vacation? Elena didn't look up from where she was carefully setting down plates at table 4. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear but from the pain that shot up her arm every time she moved her fingers. I'll be right there, Mr. Krause, she said, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. You'll be right there. Victor stepped closer, close enough that everyone could smell the cigarettes on his breath, the ones he smoked out back even though it was against health codes. You should have been there 15 minutes ago. What's wrong with you? Oh wait, I forgot. Everything's wrong with you. A few customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A woman with her young daughter pulled the child closer, covering her ears. But nobody said anything. They never did. This was Victor's kingdom, and in his kingdom, he was the only one allowed to speak. Elena finished serving table 4, her good hand steady despite everything. She walked past Victor without meeting his eyes, heading toward table 6 where an elderly couple sat with empty coffee cups and patient smiles. "I'm so sorry for the wait," she said softly, pulling out her order pad with her good hand while her injured hand stayed pressed against her stomach. The old woman reached out and touched Elena's good arm gently. "Dear, we're in no hurry. You take your time." But Victor was already there, looming behind Elena like a storm cloud. "Don't encourage her, ma'am. She needs to learn to work faster, broken hand or not. That's what she gets for being clumsy." The word clumsy hung in the air like poison. Elena's jaw tightened, but she kept writing, kept smiling, kept pretending that the word didn't cut deeper than any knife could. Because she knew the truth about her hand. She knew it wasn't clumsiness that had broken it. And Victor knew it too. That was the worst part. He knew, and he enjoyed knowing, enjoyed the power it gave him over her. From his corner booth, Michaelchen watched everything over the edge of his newspaper. He saw the way Elena's shoulders tensed every time Victor came near. He saw the way she favored her left hand, not like someone who had injured it recently, but like someone who had learned to live with constant pain. He saw the fear in her eyes that she tried so hard to hide behind professional smiles and polite words. But most of all, he saw the bruises. Not the obvious ones on her hand, but the other ones, the ones she thought her makeup covered. The yellow-green shadow along her jawline. The purple mark just visible above her collar. The way she winced when she turned too quickly, like her ribs were reminding her of something she was trying to forget. Michael had seen enough broken people in his life to recognize one. He'd served 2 tours in Vietnam before coming home to build his company from nothing. He'd seen what people looked like when they were trapped, when they were scared, when they were fighting battles nobody else could see. Elena Martinez was fighting a battle, and she was losing. But what kind of battle? That's what Michael needed to find out. He folded his newspaper carefully, leaving his usual $2 tip under his coffee cup even though the coffee only cost $1. As he stood to leave, he caught Elena's eye for just a moment. She gave him the same tired smile she gave everyone, but something in her eyes flickered. Recognition. Hope. Fear. He couldn't tell. But he would find out. The lunch rush was always worse than the morning rush. People were hungrier, angrier, in more of a hurry. The kitchen got hotter, the orders got mixed up more often, and Victor got meaner. He stood by the register like a guard dog, watching every move Elena made, commenting on every mistake real or imagined. "You call that clean?" he shouted, pointing at a table Elena had just wiped down. "I can still see streaks." "Do it again." She did it again, her injured hand trembling as she tried to hold the spray bottle. "You're limping," he announced to the entire diner when she walked past with a tray. "What's wrong now? Your feet broken too?" She wasn't limping, but after he said it, she became conscious of every step, which made her walk differently, which made him laugh. A young couple at table 2 watched with growing discomfort. The man finally spoke up. "Hey, give her a break. She's doing fine." Victor turned on him with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Are you the manager here?" "No." "Then maybe mind your own business." The man's girlfriend tugged at his sleeve, whispering for him to let it go. He did, but not before shooting Elena a sympathetic look that somehow made everything worse. Pity was almost harder to bear than cruelty. At least with cruelty, she could pretend to be strong. With pity, everyone could see how weak she really was. During the brief lull between lunch and dinner, Elena sat in the break room, a generous term for a closet with a broken chair and a calendar from 2019 that nobody had bothered to change. She carefully unwrapped the bandage on her hand, revealing fingers that were purple and swollen, bent at angles that fingers shouldn't bend. The pain was constant now, a companion that never left her side. She'd gone to the emergency room 3 weeks ago, the night it happened. They'd wanted to cast it, to give her pain medication, to ask questions about how it happened. But she'd refused everything except the basic bandage. A cast would make it impossible to work. Pain medication would make her slow. And questions would make everything worse. She rewrapped the hand with fresh bandages she'd bought with her tip money, each wrap sending fresh waves of pain up her arm. The door opened suddenly, and she jumped, quickly pulling her sleeve down. But it wasn't Victor. It was Michael Chen. "Sorry," he said, though he didn't look sorry. He looked concerned. "I was looking for the restroom." It was a lie, and they both knew it. The customer restroom was clearly marked on the other side of the diner. But Elena just nodded, standing up too quickly, making herself dizzy. "It's down the hall, second door on the right," she said, even though she knew he knew where it was. Michael didn't move. Instead, he looked at her hand, then at her face, then back at her hand. "That looks bad," he said simply. "You should see a doctor." Elena forced a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "It's fine. Just a sprain. I'm clumsy." There was that word again. Clumsy. The word Victor had given her to explain everything. The word she repeated so many times it had started to feel true. Michael's eyes narrowed slightly. "Clumsy," he repeated, like he was tasting the word, finding it bitter. "That's what Victor says, isn't it?" Elena's breath caught. "I should get back to work," she said quickly, trying to move past him. But Michael didn't step aside. "How long has he been hurting you?" The question hung in the air between them like a bridge she was afraid to cross. "I don't know what you mean," Elena whispered, but her voice broke on the last word. "Nobody's hurting me. I told you, I'm just clumsy." Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Not his real business card, the one with his title as owner, but a simple white card with just a phone number on it. "If you ever need help," he said, pressing it into her good hand, "any kind of help, you call this number. Day or night." Elena looked at the card like it might explode. "Why do you care?" she asked, and for the first time, there was anger in her voice. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me." Michael stepped back, giving her space to leave if she wanted. "I know you're not clumsy," he said quietly. "And I know you're scared. That's enough." Elena ran from the break room, the card crumpled in her fist. She threw herself back into work, taking orders, serving food, cleaning tables, anything to avoid thinking about the conversation. But the card seemed to burn in her pocket where she'd stuffed it. A lifeline she was too scared to grab. The dinner rush came and went in a blur of orders and complaints and Victor's constant criticism. By the time the last customer left at 9 p.m., Elena could barely stand. Her hand was screaming, her back ached, and her feet felt like they were made of broken glass. But she still had to clean up, still had to mop the floors, still had to make everything perfect or Victor would make her do it again. She was alone in the dining room, pushing the mop with her good hand, when she heard voices from the office. Victor's voice, loud and drunk, and another man's voice she didn't recognize. "She knows too much," Victor was saying. "I should have been more careful." The other voice laughed. "What's she going to do? Go to the cops? With what proof? Besides, you've got her so scared she can barely look you in the eye." They were talking about her. Elena pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding. "The money's good," Victor continued. $3,000 just this week. The owner never checks the books. He hasn't been here in years." The stranger laughed again. "And if anyone notices the missing cash, you blame the girl with the broken hand." "Beautiful." "Exactly. She's already got a reputation for being clumsy, unreliable. A few more accidents, and I'll have enough documentation to fire her and pin the whole thing on her if necessary." Elena's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, sitting on the floor she'd just mopped, understanding flooding through her like ice water. Her broken hand wasn't just about control. It was about creating a pattern, a paper trail, a scapegoat. Victor was stealing from the diner, and he was setting her up to take the fall. The voices continued, but she'd heard enough. She pulled out the crumpled card Michael had given her, staring at the number. She thought about her 2 kids at home, sleeping at the neighbor's apartment because she couldn't afford a babysitter. She thought about the eviction notice on her door, the final notice from the electric company, the empty refrigerator. She thought about how much she needed this job, even if it was killing her. Then she thought about prison. About her kids in foster care. About Victor winning. She dialed the number. Michael answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. "It's Elena," she whispered, her voice shaking. "From the diner. You said if I needed help. Where are you?" His voice was calm but urgent. "Still at the diner. I heard Victor talking about." She couldn't finish. The office door was opening. "Stay there," Michael said. "Lock yourself in the bathroom. I'm coming." Elena dropped the phone and ran, her injured hand hitting the bathroom door as she shoved it closed, sending pain shooting up to her shoulder. She turned the lock just as Victor's footsteps echoed in the dining room. "Martinez? You still here?" His voice was slurred, dangerous. "Where are you, you little mouse?" The doorknob rattled. "Open up. I know you're in there." Elena pressed her back against the door, using her body weight to keep it closed. "I'm just cleaning up," she called out, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'll be out in a minute." Victor laughed, an ugly sound. "You were listening, weren't you? I can always tell when someone's been sneaking around." The doorknob rattled harder. "Open this door right now, or things are going to get worse for you. You think your hand hurts now? You have no idea what hurt really is." Elena closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. This was it. This was how it would end. But then she heard another voice, clear and commanding. "Step away from the door, Victor." Michael Chen stood in the dining room, but he didn't look like the homeless veteran everyone thought he was. He stood straight, shoulders back, his presence filling the room. Behind him were 2 police officers, their hands resting on their weapons. Victor spun around, stumbling slightly. "What the hell? This is private property. You can't just..." "Actually, I can," Michael said calmly. "Because I own this property. I own this diner. I'm your boss, Victor, and you're fired." The color drained from Victor's face. "You're, what? That's impossible. The owner lives in California. He never..." "I've been sitting in that corner booth every morning for 5 years," Michael said. "Watching. Listening. Learning exactly what kind of operation you've been running." One of the officers stepped forward. "Victor Kraus, you're under arrest for embezzlement, assault, and battery." As the handcuffs clicked around Victor's wrists, he started shouting. "She's lying. Whatever she told you, she's lying. She's the one who's been stealing. Check the records. She's clumsy, unreliable. The only records we'll be checking," Michael said quietly, "are the real ones I've been keeping. Every transaction, every discrepancy, every dollar you stole thinking nobody was watching." Victor was still screaming as the police dragged him out, his voice fading into the rain that had started falling again. Michael knocked gently on the bathroom door. "Elena? It's safe. You can come out now." The door opened slowly, and Elena emerged, her face streaked with tears and makeup, her injured hand cradled against her chest. "How did you know?" she whispered. Michael's expression was gentle but sad. "I've been watching him hurt you for weeks. I've been documenting everything, building a case. I'm sorry I didn't act sooner. I needed enough evidence to make sure he couldn't talk his way out of it." Elena's legs gave out again, and Michael caught her, guided her to a chair. "Your hand," he said. "We need to get you to a hospital." She shook her head. "I can't afford." "You can now," Michael interrupted. "Elena, I'm offering you Victor's job. Actually, no. I'm offering you a better job. General manager, with full health benefits, starting immediately. Elena stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. But I'm just a waitress. I don't have experience. You have more experience than anyone, Michael said firmly. You've been running this place for years. Victor just took the credit. Every regular customer comes here for you, not for him. They put up with his abuse because they wanted to support you. I've heard them talking. He pulled out a folder from inside his jacket, laying it on the table. These are statements from customers, employees, even suppliers. All talking about how you're the one who really keeps this place running. How you remember everyone's orders, how you handle difficult situations with grace, how you treat everyone with respect even when you're not receiving any yourself. Elena opened the folder with shaking hands, reading through the statements, her eyes widening with each page. Mrs. Patterson wrote this, she whispered, looking at a 3-page letter from the elderly woman who came in every Sunday. And Tom from the kitchen. And the delivery drivers. Everyone except Victor saw your worth, Michael said. It's time you saw it too. Elena looked up at him, and for the first time in years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Why? She asked. Why do all this for me? Michael was quiet for a moment, looking at his hands. Because 40 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, but the same situation. Trapped, scared, convinced I was worthless. Someone helped me then, gave me a chance when I didn't believe I deserved one. That chance changed my life. Let me change yours. 6 months later, Murphy's Diner was unrecognizable. Not in how it looked, because Elena had kept all the charm that made it special. But in how it felt. The morning rush was still busy, but now it was filled with laughter instead of tension. The staff moved through the dining room with confidence instead of fear. And in the corner booth, Michael Chen still sat with his crossword puzzle, still ordered the same black coffee and wheat toast. But now, when Elena stopped by his table, she sat down across from him, her hand fully healed, her smile genuine. The new girl's doing well, she said, nodding toward a young woman carefully taking orders. Reminds me of someone I used to know. Someone who turned out to be pretty amazing at running a diner, Michael replied. Elena laughed, a real laugh that came from somewhere deep inside. You know what the best part is, she said. My kids can actually be proud of where their mom works now. My daughter drew a picture of the diner for her school project. She called it, "The place where mom saves the day." Michael smiled. Smart kid. She sees what everyone else sees. Through the window, they could see Victor's old parking spot, now marked with a sign that said, Employee of the Month. This month, like every month since Elena took over, it was reserved for whoever had gone above and beyond. But everyone knew the real employee of the month was the woman who transformed the diner from a place of fear to a place of belonging. I never thanked you properly, Elena said quietly. For seeing me when I'd become invisible. For believing I was worth saving. Michael shook his head. You were never invisible, Elena. You were the most visible person in this place. Everyone saw your strength, your kindness, your dedication. Victor tried to dim your light, but he never succeeded. You saved yourself. I just made sure you had the chance to prove it. As the morning sun broke through the clouds, filling the diner with golden light, Elena stood up to return to work. But it wasn't work anymore, not really. It was purpose. It was pride. It was proof that sometimes, the people who seem the most broken are actually the strongest. They just need someone to see past the bandages to the warrior underneath. The story of the undercover owner who saw a waitress with a broken hand in his diner had become legend in the neighborhood. But for Elena and Michael, it wasn't just a story. It was a reminder that angels come in all forms, sometimes wearing army jackets and doing crossword puzzles, watching and waiting for the moment when they can reveal that justice isn't just a word in those puzzles. It's a promise that eventually, the truth always comes to light. And when it does, the people who've been holding everyone else up finally get their chance to rise. That evening, as Elena locked up the diner, she found an envelope under the register. Inside was a photo from that morning, taken by one of the regular customers. It showed the entire staff gathered around a birthday cake for the dishwasher, everyone laughing, everyone belonging. On the back, someone had written, "The undercover owner saw a waitress with a broken hand in his diner. What he discovered left him stunned." Below that, in Michael's handwriting, he discovered that broken hands heal, but broken spirits, when given love and respect, soar. Elena tucked the photo into her wallet, next to pictures of her children. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new orders, new problems to solve. But it would also bring new opportunities to be the person she'd always been inside, just waiting for someone to see her. The diner that had once been her prison had become her kingdom, and the broken waitress had become an unbreakable queen. As she walked to her car, a new car bought with her first bonus as manager, she thought about all the other Elenas out there, suffering in silence, convinced they were as worthless as their abusers told them they were. She made a promise to herself that night. She would watch for them the way Michael had watched for her. She would be the angel in someone else's corner booth, the unexpected savior who saw through the disguises that pain forces people to wear. Because that's what the story of the undercover owner and the waitress with the broken hand was really about. It wasn't just about justice or revenge or even redemption. It was about the power of being seen, really seen, by someone who cares enough to look past the surface to the truth underneath. It was about the reminder that sometimes, our heroes don't wear capes or carry badges. Sometimes they wear old army jackets and do crossword puzzles, waiting patiently for the moment when they can change someone's entire world with 3 simple words. I see you. And in being seen, we find the strength to become who we were always meant to be. The broken hand had healed, but more importantly, the broken spirit had been reborn. And that was the real discovery that left everyone stunned, the transformation of a victim into a victor, of a waitress into a leader, of a diner into a home. The rain had stopped, and stars were beginning to appear in the night sky. Elena looked up at them, remembering nights when she'd wished on every star that someone, anyone, would save her from her nightmare. She hadn't known then that her wish had already been granted, that her guardian angel was sitting in a corner booth, patiently documenting every injustice, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. Now she knew that angels were everywhere, disguised as ordinary people, waiting to show us that we're worth so much more than our worst days suggest. And sometimes, when we're lucky, we get to become angels ourselves, paying forward the grace we've received, creating a chain of kindness that turns diners into sanctuaries and broken people into healers. As she drove home to her children, Elena thought about tomorrow's special, about the new employee she was training, about the meeting with Michael to discuss expanding the breakfast menu. Normal thoughts for a normal person living a normal life. But she knew better now. There was nothing normal about survival. There was nothing ordinary about courage. And there was nothing simple about the journey from victim to victor. The undercover owner had seen a waitress with a broken hand in his diner. What he discovered had indeed left him stunned. But what happened next, the rebuilding, the healing, the transformation, that had left everyone amazed. Because it proved that no matter how dark the night, no matter how cruel the oppressor, no matter how broken the hand, there was always hope. Always angels. Always a chance for the story to change, for the victim to become the hero, for the diner to become a palace where everyone was treated like royalty. And in Murphy's diner, under the management of Elena Martinez, with the watchful eye of Michael Chen still in his corner booth, that's exactly what it became. A place where broken hands healed and broken spirits soared. A place where everyone mattered. A place where the undercover owner had discovered not just a crime, but a crown jewel of a human being who just needed someone to polish away the dirt that others had thrown at her. The discovery that had left him stunned wasn't the theft or the abuse. It was the strength, the resilience, the incredible power of a woman who'd refused to let cruelty define her. And that discovery had changed not just 2 lives, but an entire community that now had a gathering place where everyone was somebody, and nobody was invisible ever again.